So, as we ask the question, what's it like? I don't know that in all of the serious issues that we've talked about, I've ever had a more difficult time than this, asking Oscar Knobloch, what's it like surviving the Holocaust? I read about it in A Boy's Story, A Man's Memory, your book. But give me one vivid memory that you have right now, off the top of your head, of that period of time from 1933 to 1945.
Well, let me tell you about a time. This was about 1942, Krakow, in the ghetto. Life in the ghetto was horrible. There was no heat. We had no beds, no mattresses. You sleep on the floor in one room, the whole family of 5. You have to go to work. You're on a 480 calorie diet, which is a starvation diet, but you have to go to work. I ended up working in the ghetto, loading garbage on a wagon, which was actually brought in from outside the ghetto with what we call a horse handler, who was a Polish man, Christian. And he would come in with that wagon with the 2 horses and just park it on the side of the road, or the street, and we, the crew, had to load the garbage. I was young. I was barely, at that time, I was 15, 16 years old, undernourished, and the cans were heavy. At one point, Jacek was his name, stepped forward to save the can from falling on my feet. Didn't have to do that. You know, the old story, you know, they had signs plastered all over the place. Anyone helping in any way or shape, helping a Jew and caught, will be executed. Well, he felt that he had to step in because I would have been injured. But the next day, he did something which I never expected. He smuggled in a loaf of bread underneath of his wagon. Now, a lot of people say, what's a loaf of bread? A loaf of bread means a lot for a family if there's an extra slice of bread when you're hungry. And it also means that if he brings that bread more than once, and nobody asked him, I never had any money to give him, all I could say is thank you. And he was dedicated to bring me loaves of bread. So you would think that this is all he's going to do. A farmer's son. Maybe he didn't have as much education as the rest of the people, but he did something. The way it worked in the ghetto, that they used to have roundups. They would take part of a street, cordon it off with the soldiers, and whoever was living on that street or was still alive would be rounded up and sent to a death camp. Lo and behold, we were almost finished with the wagon loading the garbage. Yasha sees it, he steps up and he comes to me and says, this is not good. He grabs me, he throws me on top of the garbage. It's soaking, stinky, rotten garbage. Gives me the reins to the horses. He says, take the wagon out. They will not take me. Stay as long as you can. I have no watch. He says to me, watch the sun. When the sun was starting to go down, I'm finally arriving back to the ghetto. He was waiting for me outside. And he said, it's a good thing I threw you on top of the garbage, because the whole crew was sent away that day.
See, now those are the kinds of things that you have such a hard time conceiving, even if you recall historically that period of time. But you lived it, and with so little time left, I have to ask you a question, and the answer has to be brief, Oscar. With the fact that your father was murdered by the German authorities.
Right.
Your mother was imprisoned in a camp. How do you feel about the German people now?
Well, I can't forget what was done. That's part of history, just like we can read in any book what happened in history. Did I forgive him? I did. It's a very simple thing. I think that I don't want to bring religion in, but it's just one of those things that you have to say to yourself, where does it end? You have to go on with your life, and you cannot bring anything back. Gosh, if we only could bring it back, if we could reverse it. What we can do is don't let it happen again.
Well, there are so many stories in the book that are at least as compelling as the one that Oscar Knobloch just told us. What's it like? Well, you can find out with a boy's story and a man's memory. And I'm glad you got a chance to meet Oscar. This is Pat McMahon.